record. But I just wanted to thank everybody for joining today. My name is Sarah Pierce, and I am the Housing and Energy Affordability Program Coordinator for the Metropolitan Housing Coalition. So what we do at the Metropolitan Housing Coalition is we advocate for fair and affordable housing for all. And I manage the EveryHome program, which is a new program that the Metropolitan Housing Coalition launched this year that is dedicated to housing and energy affordability. So on today's webinar, we have Billy and Trey, who are representing the Office of Energy Policy in Frankfurt, who will be discussing Kentucky's Inflation Reduction Act programs. And I know many of you all have been eager to know what Kentucky's IRA plan will include, and for good reason. Approximately 16% of Louisville households are severely energy burdened, meaning that they are spending more than 10% of their income on energy bills alone. And this, of course, can put a strain on household budgets, making it difficult to, decide between, do I want to pay my energy bill? Do I have to pick between groceries and medicine as well? So, of course, Billy and Trey will further discuss this, but MHC believes that the IRA, Inflation Reduction Act that was signed in 2022, may be a beacon of hope. With these IRA programs, we're hoping to see a lot more energy efficient appliances, renewable energies, and stronger communities. So again, just wanted to say thank you all for hopping on. This webinar will be recorded, and we will send out the link to share for anybody who has missed it. So I will go ahead and pass it over to Billy and Trey. If you have any questions, be sure to put them in the chat. We are going to have a Q&A session at the end of the presentation. All right, go ahead.
Thank you, Sarah.
Take it away.
We appreciate the opportunity to talk with you today about the IRA rebate program and how Kentucky plans to implement those funds. My name is Billy Hardin, and I work as a federal program specialist at the Office of Energy Policy. I've been there about 3 months now, almost 4. And we decided, or it was decided before I came on board, that we would hire an implementer to help us design the program and implement the program, because it's such a vast, dynamic program with lots of opportunity to serve Kentuckians across the Commonwealth. And we want to be sure that we bring to the table the resources that we need to reach 500,000 plus Kentuckians. That's our goal with this program, or at least a large subset of that population who basically has no insulation in their homes, or who are in need of assistance with upgrading their heating systems. And so we went through a rigorous RFP process, and Horn LLC is a service provider implementer, and selected them to assist us design the program and also implement the program when we receive the full funding for the IRA rebate programs. And so I'm going to turn it over to Gladstone Sellers. He goes by Trey, and I'll let him explain a little bit about how he came about being Trey, and talk about the rebate programs in Kentucky and where we're headed. Trey?
Thanks, Billy. Yes, my formal name is Gladstone, but that's a mouthful for folks. So I am a third. So I've gone by Trey my whole life, and especially with my friends. So typically when someone calls me Gladstone, I'm in trouble, or they don't know me. And with this group here, I would hope y'all would call me Trey, because I'm not going to be in trouble, and y'all know me now. So I've got a quick presentation that I'd like to roll through, and then like Sarah and Billy mentioned, be happy to answer any questions y'all have. So the Kentucky Home Energy Rebates Program is part of the Kentucky Energy and Environment Cabinet, the Office of Energy Policy. Our agenda for today will be to introduce the different players from the administrative point of view. I'll provide an overview of the Home Rebates Program, our alignment with the Team Kentucky initiative, the key principles that we're keeping prioritized in our design approach. a brief overview of the Home Efficiency Rebate, or HER program. You may also hear it referred to as the HOMES program at the national level. The Home Electrification Appliance Rebate Program. So this is the appliance program, also called HERE. We'll review the process for program design and implementation. So our planning phase, DOE plan review and approval process, our program customer journey, our continued evaluation, and then our timeline and next steps. So as far as who are the key players from the state level, you obviously have the Kentucky Energy Environment Cabinet Office of Energy Policy. They have been designated by the Department of Energy as the state level authority that will receive these funds on behalf of the Commonwealth. Then you have Horn LLP. That's me, my firm. Again, I'm Trey Sellers. I am a manager here at Horn. I serve a role for Kentucky called a client service executive. So my job is to keep Billy happy, among other things, but to also make sure that we're maintaining compliance with DOE and state requirements. And then most importantly, that we are properly resourced to ensure that these rebate funds are getting out into the community, getting delivered timely, effectively, and responsibly to households in greatest need. And so Horn will be serving as the program implementer for the rebate program, provide that administrative and oversight on behalf of the state from start to finish. We'll be responsible for overseeing consumer outreach, education, marketing efforts, recruiting program participants, eligibility determinations, and then workforce development and management of our enrolled contractor network. As mentioned earlier, we want to ensure that the program design is aligned with the Team Kentucky initiative. And so the kind of 4 pillars that we're seeking to achieve there with a successful program design would be job creation and economic development through energy efficiency measures, installation, as well as contractor training and upskilling programs, improvements to this Commonwealth's housing infrastructure, quality of life by reducing energy burden for our most vulnerable populations, rebuilding more energy efficient post-disaster housing, and then creating more resilient communities through housing improvements. So the key principles that are guiding our program design, which is the phase that we're in now, is first, do no harm. We want to make sure that any home we're in, we're ensuring that the energy burden is decreased, and that the program design meets the needs of the Commonwealth first. Kentucky households are our priority. We want to ensure that especially our low-income customer experience does not have any additional burdens. We want to make sure we're safeguarding consumer protections and creating an easily navigable program that's accessible for all applicants. We want to make sure we're prioritizing customer service and our response to customers as they do navigate through the program. We are going to be honoring Kentucky's position as a fuel choice state. We are obviously designing for compliance with the DOE requirements, and make sure that from a programmatic point of view, we have transparency and accessibility to the public. As far as the overview from a national level, this was $8.8 billion that was authorized on the Inflation Reduction Act signed in 2022. The Inflation Reduction Act authorized 2 specific funding streams that we're going to be reviewing today. Section 50121 of the legislation established the Home Efficiency Rebate Program. As I mentioned earlier, you may also see it referred to as the HOMES, or Homeowner Managing Efficiency Savings Rebate Program. This involves really a whole home approach to retrofit homes and multifamily housing units to enhance the energy efficiency. The second section is 50122, which established the Home Electrification Appliance Rebate Program, also called HERE. This encourages the adoption of allowable appliances that consume less energy and are more cost effective. Obviously, with any federal program, duplication of benefits is a requirement, and so we cannot have a single measure that would receive the equal or full amount of funding from both programs. The initiative really aims to increase energy efficiency and reduce residential energy costs, or lowering utility bills. But we do want to make sure we note that we are still in the design phase, and so all of the DOE allowable measures may not be included in Kentucky's final program design. The allocation is pretty split pretty equally between the two, a little bit higher for the excuse me, 501(c)(1 program, 67.1 million, and then 66.9 for the HERE program. Do want to note that there is a holdback from DOE, so our final allocation will actually be probably closer to about $130 million. Eligible properties. So this really applies to all residential properties, both single family and multifamily. There is a multifamily, low-income multifamily threshold that we have to meet. And so we are making sure that we're considering multifamily concerns in our program design. So as far as kind of an overview of the timeline from where we are, right now we're in kind of step one, right? Stakeholder engagement, meeting with groups like this to inform, one, the design of our application, but also some of the finer points and tactical elements that will inform how the program goes to market. We gather feedback from the public, from key stakeholders that we've been meeting with and are continuing to meet with over the next probably 6 to 8 weeks. For our initial stakeholder engagement, we'll take that feedback and we will include it in our application and then our what's called state implementation blueprint that provides some details to DOE on how we plan to do things like provide community benefits. What will our what will our education and outreach strategy look like? How are we going to make sure that consumers are protected? So those are some of the required elements that we got to make sure that we're one, considering what's the best bet for Kentucky, but also being within the requirements of the DOE. Step two would be a final plan and application submitted to Department of Energy for their review and approval. Um, there's some back and forth. They will give us some feedback on what we've provided. We're not quite sure what that timeline is yet with DOE. We know that there is a deadline to submit these applications on January 31st of 2025. And so we anticipate that all the states that have not submitted yet are in the process. So we are being mindful that we may have somewhat of a traffic jam, but we're working quickly to provide feedback to follow to resolve any questions that the DOE may have coming forward. DOE will then inform us at step three of the application and plan approval. We'll release the first tranche of funds that will enable the Energy Office and the rebate program to begin pre-launch and launch activities in what we're hoping for 2025 for Kentucky households. After we receive the funding and those pre-launch and launch activities have taken place, step five will be the rebate request portal will open and we will begin accepting applications from Kentucky households for rebate funds. I will caution, and if any of you are in conversations with other homeowners, these funds are not available yet, and we do not anticipate them being retroactive. So we're trying to caution people, don't spend money yet. The program's coming, but is not here quite yet. As noted, these are programs that have a heavy focus on low income and low to moderate income households. So for instance, in that low income, below 80% AMI bucket, the home efficiency rebate 501(c)(1, DOE does allow up to 80% of project costs to be covered by the rebate. So that would be up to $8,000. Depending on the project's estimated energy savings. And one of the requirements there would be that after a home energy assessment, that the measures that we would install would achieve at least 20% energy reduction. So 20% energy reduction in kilowatt hours would then translate to a 20% reduction in the utility bill for those homeowners. For the HERE program 501(c)(2), it is more prescriptive, so there's not a requirement to achieve a certain percentage of energy savings. The measures that are outlined are Energy Star, very high efficient measures, HVAC heat pumps, heat pump water heaters are some of the included measures there. That provides a total rebate bundle up to $14,000 per unit, so either per single family household or per multifamily unit. And those rebates can cover up to 100% of project cost for those households. For the moderate income households, the 80% to 150%, there are still some rebates available for under 501(c)(1, the home efficiency rebate program, up to 50% of the project cost, still requiring the same estimated project savings. But those single family households could save up to $4,000 depending on their income and the projected energy savings. Under here, up to 14,000 is still allowable, but only 50% of project cost would be eligible for those moderate income families. So just kind of an overview of our envisioned customer journey. The first step, as we noted, would be the port rebate request portal would open, and a household would fill out an application. Part of that would be an income qualification, so ensuring that we understand the household's income so that we can match the appropriate rebate level with them. They would then select a registered contractor, so part of our process will also be selecting and enrolling qualified HVAC techs, electricians, other contractors that perform the type of work that these programs require, and allowing consumers to select the contractor that works best for them. That contractor would then conduct an energy assessment to model the potential energy savings in the home for the 501(c)(1 program, or to recommend the best bundle of measures under 501(c)(2) that would achieve sufficient, that would help them lower the utility bills. Together, they would decide on the scope of the project, and the contractor would install the measures. The contractor would then submit the required post-install information to the program. Our program staff will review that, and then we'll make a rebate payment directly to the contractor. So what we're really striving for here is to minimize where we can any financial burden or out-of-pocket costs for households, specifically those low-income households. The homeowner will then receive a post-install certificate and a customer survey. Tell us how we did. Couple highlights. We are looking to have an easy-to-use online customer portal. We're in conversations with the Connect program to integrate with their resources so that folks that are looking for help with housing costs, utility costs are able to be made aware of the program. We are in an active, we're about to initiate our engagement and active recruitment with trade allies and other contractors across the state to ensure that we have ready and willing contractors in all regions of the Commonwealth, so that regardless of where you live, somebody's going to be able to do the work that needs to be done to get these energy savings. We'll have a robust referral program with both our contractor network as well as the ability to stack and braid, or weave and crochet, I believe is the term we're using now, but be able to identify other sources of cost reductions for homeowners, for instance, utility, home rebate programs, and potential integration with the weatherization program. So that is an income qualified program, but DOE does allow for categorical eligibility. And what that means is that essentially, if you're a household in Kentucky that participates in another income qualified program, many of which you are probably already familiar with that are on the slide here, but weatherization, LIHEAP, SNAP, some of the ones that typically come to mind. We do not need to go through the process of collecting additional income documentation that may be burdensome to households. We're able to confirm their participation in another program, and determine an income qualified there. So really an opportunity to reach the lowest, hardest hit population, and where we can reduce the burden that they may be facing. Again, identifying the scope and complete the project. So through that home energy assessment, the contractor will identify the scope of work based on those measures that achieve the minimum required savings without an excessive cost. So making sure we hit either the 20% or there is a higher threshold that can be achieved for a higher rebate amount. We provide that scope of work and the quote to the customer. The customer will make the decision to move forward with the identified upgrades if they would like to. The qualified contractor would then complete the project and submit the post-install information back to the program for review. And then we would issue the rebate to the contractor. All energy efficient measures and upgrades must be installed by enrolled qualified contractors. that is part of our consumer protection plan. And we do have a robust post-install inspection and quality assurance to ensure that consumers are getting the best quality installation and the highest quality measures. Um, so we are focusing on low-income single-family households, mobile homes. Billy mentioned earlier that we have almost 500,000 homes in Kentucky that have a nominal zero value R value for insulation. So when it's hot outside, they're hot. When it's cold outside, they're cold. And both these programs provide some very robust measures and funding to be able to make a big dent in that shortfall. So as far as the goals and benefits of the program, obviously we want to maximize the number of Kentucky households we're able to serve. We want to make sure we can scale access and demand for energy efficient measures. We want to ensure access to capital for low and middle income households, drive affordability, and achieve cost savings where we can, and really enhance quality of life. We know the comfort of the home is largely dependent on a lot of the measures that we're considering for these programs. Ability to, indoor and outdoor air pollution affecting asthma. So there's a lot of things that can be fixed with some of the measures that are included in the rebates program. We are also going to be pursuing the Justice 40 initiative, so ensuring that 40% of all benefits flow to disadvantaged communities. So we want to decrease the energy environment burdens to disadvantaged communities while improving their access to clean energy. And then really try to drive, excuse me, clean energy jobs and have a robust workforce development to one, not only be able to deliver these programs, as we know there's going to be a need for some upskilling and some growth in these trades in the Commonwealth, but also be able to make an impact on the market long term for the Commonwealth. So again, we're in the design phase now. So program design and implementation, we are ensuring that we are meeting with stakeholders regularly. Like I said, I'll be happy to share with Sarah when it's finalized what our stakeholder engagement calendar and invites will be once those are finalized, so that if there are specific events or groups, they are targeted kind of based on interest groups. So for instance, workforce development groups, housing authorities, state agencies, civil and social organizations, obviously contractors and trade allies. So some of them are more tailored for specific audiences, but we'll make sure that those are made available to Sarah if you are interested in attending and participating. Again, we're aligned with Team Kentucky and our focus on our design principles. We are in the application development and planning phase, so pending application submission to DOE and awaiting their approval. And of course, are always willing to accept feedback from our stakeholders on what they're seeing and what's going on in their markets. We do have a program website that's coming soon. And so when that's available, we will pass that along to Sarah for distribution to her groups. That will include frequently asked questions that will be sourced from stakeholder engagement groups such as this. That way, as we get more questions, we're able to provide answers and direct people to those resources. We'll have a program timeline, which will be updated as each of those steps are progressed through. And then we'll have an opportunity for folks to sign up for an email notification list. So upcoming stakeholder engagement sessions, as different milestones are met in the program and application submission process to keep people apprised of where we are, what our projected, launch date is, et cetera. And then continued stakeholder engagement. We know that that doesn't stop just because we've gotten approval. We want to make sure that from a continuous improvement perspective, we are continuing to get feedback from the community, from key stakeholders to ensure that our design and delivery are meeting the Commonwealth's needs. So I guess I'll stop now and jump out of here so I can see if there are questions. And Billy's going to help me tag team questions so I don't put my foot in my mouth.
You've never done that.
It looks like thank you all so much. It does look like we have two questions so far. What is the general timeline for launch of the online portal?
Right now we are shooting for spring of 2025. I will asterisk caveat put a highlight on that due to there's some things that are out of our control with DOE approval and their review process. So, um, but that is our goal. That is what we're pursuing.
Okay. And then another, will these slides be made available after the meeting?
Um, Billy, I'm sure we can.
Um, we can make them available, but with the caveat that this is just general information and nothing in here is final. It's just very high level draft. We will mark the presentation as draft and be sure that um, when we ask that it not be circulated around because that's how misinformation happens. And so, for your own personal internal use, definitely for your own educational use, but not to use to educate anyone else, just for your own internal use.
Mhm. Okay, another question from Kitty. You mentioned that the program is not retroactive. When can developers begin planning to use this rebate when it comes to construction projects on the drawing board?
Yeah, so that's a good question, and that may be one we take offline.
Mhm.
Um, we are still finalizing what our approach for new construction will be. We understand that the financing stack at the multifamily or even single family development level is very complex with a lot of lead time, and we want to make sure that we're being respectful of that and getting in at the right time. So I would say if that's something that you have specific insight into, that please reach out to Billy or myself. Like I said, new construction is something that we're considering as an opportunity, especially for here. It is not allowable under the HER or 501(c)(1) program, but it is allowable for 501(c)(2) under the HERE program. So I would say let's get connected, make sure you're on our stakeholder list, so that we can understand what that process best looks like for developers, so that we're able to keep y'all in the know and be a part of that planning phase.
And Trey, I will add to that the purpose of our stakeholder engagement calls and listening sessions is to learn from contractors how we might be able to meet their needs and maximize these rebates so that it's not a burden for them to carry any type of risk associated with the improvements that they're making. So, definitely if you're a contractor, be sure that we have your name, put your name in the chat, send it to Trey and me after the call so that we can get your guidance. That's it. This program is fluid right now. Nothing is set in stone, and we really are looking at how we can tailor this for Kentucky. We it's not cookie cutter because Kentucky's unique. And even within Kentucky, there's 5 different regions, so we have to be sure that we approach this in a way that's flexible, but yet at the same time coherent across the state.
Thank you. And John had a question. Has Horn rolled out or is currently rolling out any other IRA programs in other states?
Yes, we are. We're currently contracted in two other states and one territory. Excuse me. Um, I can share that one-on-one. I will need to confirm with my contacts with those agencies if they're comfortable with me sharing that here publicly. But we are serving two other states in the same capacity.
Horn also has vast experience in implementing government programs for disaster relief. They had the contract. Trey, you want to talk a little bit about that, about your work in California and other locations?
Sure. Horn started as a CPA firm in the 60s, but we're headquartered out of Jackson, Mississippi. 2005, when Hurricane Katrina hit the Gulf Coast, it really wrecked a lot of our local communities, and we saw an opportunity to really be able to serve, not just our traditional tax and audit clients, but serve the community at large. Worked with the Mississippi governor and a lot of several of the state agencies there to manage and oversee 80 something billion dollars in FEMA and other relief funding, CBDG, to rebuild the Mississippi Gulf Coast. We've since done similar rebuilding disaster recovery efforts in Florida, Texas after Hurricanes Harvey, Ian. And then during the pandemic, we really pivoted into direct applicant programs. So our pandemic portfolio included, y'all may have heard of like the Emergency Rental Assistance Program. We were in 5 states, full turnkey solution there. The Homeowners Assistance Fund, so providing assistance to homeowners who are behind on their mortgages. And then the Low Income Water Assistance Program, specifically serving California and Arkansas, to ensure that both back due water bills as well as any future costs were there to ensure that clean water was accessible to those specifically low income communities. So we have a pretty robust portfolio. This is our first venture into the energy space, but we've onboarded a full team of energy expertise and engineers to support the technical pieces, and we're going to be leveraging our background in serving LMI and disadvantaged communities from the direct applicant facing piece.
Thank you. Lana, I see you have your hand raised. Is it pertaining to the last question? We also have 2 questions before you, just in case.
Yep, certainly. I can wait. Thank you.
Thank you. So Ben had a question. Will this program continue when the Department of Energy changes hands? I think more specifically, I think we're all wondering how the IRA funding is going to change with the changing political landscape.
Billy?
I wish we had a crystal ball to answer that question. Uh, all I can say is that we are moving forward with plan development and stakeholder listening sessions as if it's going to move forward. I know that it's already rolled out in several states, and rescission would be difficult, I would think, but not impossible. So that's the best answer I can give at this time, is that we're moving forward as if it is going to continue on. And if you guys have a crystal ball and know something we don't, please share it with us.
And then Tony had a question, and then we'll go to Lena. Tony asked, what new ways are you thinking about in your approach to stakeholder engagement, especially in regards to reaching the entire economic spectrum?
So let me ask a clarifying question here. Are you talking about the actual rebate recipient, or how we're going to do stakeholder engagement with groups such as yourselves?
I can't speak for Tony. I think he said both.
Okay. So for the listening sessions, we're going to have some in-person listening sessions as well as some virtual. And then as it relates to other stakeholder engagement, I'll let Trey answer that.
Sure, absolutely. We're using a variety of methods. Some of it, to Billy's point, is the direct invite, both in person and virtual, really seeking to meet potential applicants where they are, but also understanding that sometimes the best way to do that is through an intermediary, through groups such as this, through groups such as United Way, Habitat for Humanity. We're partnered with SOAR for the eastern part of the state to be able to really get penetration from an authoritative on-the-ground resource to provide support with people that don't have access to internet or don't have cell phones, to see how we can both serve them from a rebate delivery perspective, but also from a stakeholder engagement to understand how we can better serve them in rebate delivery. So a plethora of ways, to Billy's point, really engaging at the high level now with a lot of the key stakeholders from a community benefits group, community action agencies, working with CHFS and their team to be able to co-brand, working with Duke Energy and our other utility providers across the Commonwealth to have opportunity for utility bill stuffers and banners on the website so that both at the stakeholder engagement and then at that applicant education and outreach stage, we've got a full toolbox that we're able to go to tailor, especially for the lower income households and households that are in need of these. One thing I'll also add is that we are really trying to take a very data-driven approach, and so we're using some pretty robust GIS mapping to identify parts of the state that have both disadvantaged communities, low-income populations, and high energy burden. So we're able to crosswalk those to really tailor our outreach, be it digital or in person or through mail, whatever that channel may be, to reach those populations that we know stand to benefit the most from these programs.
And I think that one thing that's going to be key for us is partnering with our utility providers to help us with some mail out flyer inserts and also online advertising about how we can crochet any type of rebates or assistance that they have with this program to maximize the benefit to the customer. So we're really looking at a holistic approach, not one single effort, but just more holistic.
Thank you. Lana?
Thanks, Sarah. Just a clarifying question on the application. I thought I heard earlier, Trey, that you said that the application has not been submitted. However, when I look at the Department of Energy website, they are reporting that an application was submitted on November 6th for Kentucky. So just was curious which part is, if the map is not correct or if there's another application that was submitted.
Let me answer that one. It's a bit confusing. So the application process is kind of a two-phase process. So DOE requires us to submit an initial application, and that's what you're seeing on that website, reflected on that website. So you're seeing that we have submitted initial applications for 50121 and 50122. So as soon as DOE approves our initial application, then we get to submit this blueprint, implementation blueprint, which is part 2 of the application that Trey was referencing earlier. That's the plans. And so, yes, our initial application is submitted, but our full application is not submitted. And
okay, very good. Thank you.
We cannot submit the full application. This is where where the hang up is with DOE. So, and hang up in sense of more of a bottleneck. So we have to submit this application, but we can't really do our blueprints until we know that DOE likes our initial approach that we're wanting to take, because our blueprints are going to build on that application. So until we get feedback from DOE, we're not at a standstill. We're still moving forward, developing our implementation plans, but at the same time, we kind of are at a standstill because, if they say no to one part of our initial application, then we have to go back and rethink what we've done with our implementation plans. So we hope to have feedback from DOE on that initial implementation plan soon, but the ball's in their court so that we can move forward with the plans.
Okay, appreciate it.
Ray, is there anything that you'd add to that?
No, I think that's a good summary. And yeah, my apologies for not clarifying. Our initial application was almost more of an administrative exercise, whereas this second piece is here's where the rubber meets the road, right? Here's how we're actually going to deliver these programs. And so that's kind of the disconnect. We can't launch the programs until that second piece of the application is approved. So that's why it's a critical piece for us to get right.
And that's why we can't launch until spring. it is the DOE approval of our implementation plan, of all of the applications and the plans, the entire application packet.
Thank you so much. Alicia had another question. Will these programs reach renters with low incomes who do not own their home but otherwise would meet requirements?
Yes, so I spoke earlier about categorical eligibility, and I think I named some of the kind of direct applicant programs like SNAP. There is actually a property level categorical eligibility that DOE is encouraging. So programs that are properties that are Section 8 housing, LIHTC properties, um, essentially any property where 50% of the units, excuse me, 50% of the occupied units have a household that are below that 80% AMI threshold, qualify for that highest level of rebate. And so from a multifamily perspective for renters, both single family and multifamily, there is definitely an opportunity for them to receive the benefits. As far as how they participate in the program, that has not been finalized yet. But we definitely understand that ensuring that renters receive the end benefit is an important part of reducing the energy burden, especially in low income and disadvantaged communities.
And I would say, I have a question that goes along with that. I know that a lot of people who rent their own homes, who would get landlord approval to have these energy efficiency appliance upgrades in the home. Is there any type of safety net or program in place that kind of works with landlords to make sure that rent is not increased after efficiency upgrades have occurred in the home?
Yeah, so one of DOE's requirements, and one that from a consumer perspective and a renter protection perspective, we are aligned on, is ensuring that there are no unjustified rent increases due to the benefits that are received from these installations. Obviously, for a lot of renters, if they are responsible for their power bill, they'll receive the greatest benefit as soon as the measures are in. But yes, we are finalizing now essentially a renter's protection package to ensure that one, landlords are made aware of those expectations, but also that we have an avenue for if a renter were to feel that they were unjustly being subject to a rent increase, they could report that to the program, and we would be able to take some type of corrective action.
Thank you. Does anybody have any other questions? You can feel free to put them in the chat or come off mute. And if you also don't have any questions currently, you're more than welcome to follow up, or if you think of a question, you can always send it to me and I can see if I can find out the answer through Billy and Trey. But
Yeah, Sarah, I can drop Billy and I's contact information. I had that on the slideshow, but I ended it early. I can drop our contact information in the chat if that's helpful.
that would be great. And I think, if anybody is interested in being a stakeholder in this discussion, that would be, they would be the person to reach out to.
Again, we want to thank you for the opportunity to talk with you about Kentucky's home energy rebates program. We're excited about the opportunities that exist with it and how it's going to reduce energy burden across the state and promote some workforce development in alignment with Team Kentucky, and just so very excited. Thank you so much for your time.
Yes, thank you all so much for coming and giving us this presentation. I know that the IRA has been a hot topic this past couple of years, and we're really excited to see that it's moving toward that direction of final applications in 2025. So we look forward to seeing that end result and hope that nothing changes. If I had a crystal ball, you know. But again, thank you all so much. And with the Metropolitan Housing Coalition, we do webinars on the second Tuesday of each month, or third Tuesday. My apologies. We changed it this week because Thanksgiving is next week, and we will not have a webinar in December to give everybody a break for the holidays. So we will begin our program next year with a bunch of exciting topics. So thank you all for your continued support. And if you have any questions, be sure to reach out to us.